Good morning. Welcome to Cause 224, Chemistry and Trichology. I hope you've all had a great weekend and you are ready to learn. So this week we are going to be working out of Chapter 15, Salon Health and Safety. That's on page 231 in your Hair Structure and Chemistry Simplified book. I've decided to skip ahead a little bit because I feel like the information in this chapter is really important for you to know working on the salon floor, and also I think it would be better for you to learn this stuff before we move on to other information in other chapters. So go ahead and open up your book to page 231 so you can follow along with me. Upon completion of today's lesson, you'll be able to understand the importance of working safely, explain how chemicals affect our everyday lives, explain how the overexposure principle can protect you, list the rules of working safely, understand the importance of MSDS sheets, choose and use the proper safety equipment, define toxicity and carcinogenicity, and protect your health and the health of your clients. So looking at this, it seems like we're going to be learning a lot, but if you think back, this is all information that you have already learned within cosmetology. So honestly, this chapter is going to be a fresher for most of you. So why is working safely in the salon so important? And honestly, what does working safely even mean? We're going to find that out, but I know those of you on the floor have heard me and Mr. Galloway talk about the importance of safety and sanitation, as well as just general rules and guidelines that you follow when you're working with a client. I know that a lot of you have not yet had the opportunity to work on a live client because of COVID, but when you are able to work on a live client, you'll see there are many differences when you're performing chemical services on a client versus a mannequin. And one of the huge differences is you can hurt a human. You can't really hurt a mannequin. If you do, you just throw them in the trash and grab another one. You don't do that with clients. You want to have that client retention. You want to protect your business, but you also want to protect yourself, and as always, you want to protect the safety of your client. So that is why working safely in the salon is so important. So we are now looking at the rules of working safely. So this is kind of like the guideline for how to be safe in the salon. We have 10 rules here, and they're all equally important to your role as the stylist in the salon. So rule number 1 is find ways to reduce chemical exposures to safe levels. So this is basically just making sure that you are keeping things at a safe standard and you are not exceeding what should be done on the client's hair. So say a client comes in and they have level 3, like a dark brunette hair, and they're wanting to go to a level 10, so light blonde, and they're wanting to do that all in one session. Now, as the stylist, you have the right to tell them, and honestly, you should tell them, the likelihood of you being able to achieve that in one session without damaging their hair is very slim. And you should recommend doing that over a course of sessions instead of all at once to prevent damage on your client's hair. Now, this rule can also apply to relaxers or permanent waves, Brazilian, blowouts, really any kind of chemical service that you would offer to your client. Rule number 2 is treat the products you use with respect. Now, this is not in reference to the way you talk about your products or the way you talk to your products. If you're doing that, then I don't know that these rules are even necessary for you. It's just understanding that you don't want to exceed what the product is capable of and try and push the product to its limit. If you have questions about what a product can do, your best reference is going to be your MSDS sheet, and we will get into that a little bit further into our lesson. Rule number 3 is be prepared, ready, learn, and plan ahead. So this kind of goes back to chapter 1, where we talked about the scientific method. So the scientific method is going to help you to be prepared and plan ahead. So you should always implement the scientific method into your consultation to prepare yourself for anything that may occur during the service. Rule number 4 is keep products capped when not in use. Obviously, we use some chemicals that can be pretty strong in the salon, so we want to make sure everything is capped, not just our developers, our lighteners, our relaxers. Literally every product should be capped. Rule number 5 is never use a dust mask to protect yourself from vapors. I don't know if any of you have ever experienced the vapors that occur during a Brazilian blowout, but they are extreme and there is no dust mask in the world that will protect you from them. You have to have the appropriate equipment to do so. Rule number 6, never judge a product safety by its odor. The color line that we use at my salon is a vegan line, and it really just smells like vegetables, but that does not mean that I would ever eat the color that we have at my salon. Just because something doesn't have like a strong smell, that you're still protecting yourself against that product. Because if you think, oh, it doesn't smell that bad, I'm not going to wear gloves, it's still going to burn your hands. So just make sure you're being extra cautious and taking any safety measures that you need to protect yourself. Rule number 7 is never eat or drink in the salon. Rule number 8 is wear appropriate safety glasses when working with chemicals. Obviously, that one's pretty much self-explanatory. Rule number 9 is always wash your hands before touching your eyes. I don't know if any of you have ever cut jalapenos and then forgot to wash your hands and touch your eyes, but it's literally the worst pain you can ever feel. And I can imagine getting lightener in your eyes probably feels similar to that. So make sure you're always washing your hands. And then number 10 is treat all chemicals with respect. And that kind of falls into the same category as number 2. Know your boundaries and know what a chemical can and can't do. If you're unsure, always check the MSD sheet. So here we have a little bit more information about working safely in the salon. We have OSHA and MSDS. OSHA stands for Occupational Safety and Health Administration, and these are the people who are looking out for you. They are here to enforce safety and health standards and protect employees in the workplace. So OSHA is really going to come in and make sure everything is set up properly in the salon. They're going to make sure that employees are trained and protected in the workforce. Then we have our MSDS, which is our Material Safety Data Sheet. The Hazard Communication Standard requires manufacturers to list specific information about a product's safety on special forms. So for every product or chemical that you have in the salon, you should have an MSDS sheet. If you get new products, you need to request the MSDS sheet for that product so that you know how to handle this product if something is to occur in the salon. This is going to tell you what this product can and can't be used with, how it should be stored, what to do if there is some type of incident where this product gets in a client's eyes. Your MSDS sheet is going to be the place you go to determine how to handle the product. So if you are following along, we are at proper storage conditions on page 234. We want to make sure we are storing our products in the proper way, making sure that we are protecting the products as well as ourselves. If products are not stored correctly, they significantly reduce their shelf life, making a product go bad, and it could also cause a fire or explosion. So we obviously don't want things popping off in the dispensary, so we want to make sure things are stored properly. I personally have never had an explosion, but one of my students last semester actually had a hairspray container explode in her car and break her window. So yeah, we want to make sure we're storing things properly so that we don't have any incidents like that happen. And if you look in your book, it also says don't leave products in your car. So yeah, let's make sure we're not leaving anything in our car so we don't have any explosions. We also want to make sure that flammable products are stored away from heat or any source of flame, because, we also don't want to have a fire. And then chemicals should be kept in their original marked containers. This is just going to prevent anyone from having any confusion. Also, when state board comes, if there is a product that is not labeled properly, they will have a fit. So make sure you're keeping things in their original containers. So let's talk a little bit about chemicals entering the body. Obviously, this is not an ideal situation, but if it wasn't something that occurred, we wouldn't be talking about it. So we have inhalation, absorption, and ingestion. Inhalation occurs when vapors, mists, or dusts are inhaled. Then we have absorption, and this is going to be through the skin or broken tissue. This could happen to the client or the stylist, but I honestly feel like it's more likely for this to occur to the stylist because people get in a rush, they don't wear gloves, they burn their hands with lightener, and then they have bleach marks on their hands for like 3 days. And that is no fun, it's very painful. So make sure you're wearing your gloves. Then we have our ingestion, which hopefully is unintentional or accidental. And these are all things that if they occur, you obviously need to check out your MSD sheet for how to handle that specific situation. There will be numbers for you to call, a process for you or your client to follow to make sure you are protecting yourselves. Whenever you do look at the MSD sheet, make sure you are looking for the manufacturer and not the specific product, because you're going to have an easier time finding the manufacturer's information versus the specific product. We're now looking at health effects of overexposure, and we have two different types of health effects. We have our acute short term, and then we have our chronic long term. So acute could be something that the stylist experienced or the client experienced. I myself have had an acute overexposure to Brazilian blowouts. The formaldehyde in the formula was just way too strong for me and I could not handle it, so I had to stop doing Brazilian blowouts after about 3 months. And then we have our chronic or long term. This could also be a client or a stylist exposure. And this would be someone who has either repeatedly done a service or received a service over an extended period of time. So someone who has spent several years either doing a service or receiving a service. We have our signs and symptoms of overexposure, and those are really going to be dependent on the type of overexposure that they are experiencing. So exposures to solvents could make someone feel tired or sleepy, and then our exposures to chemicals could range from headaches, nausea, nosebleeds, tingling of the toes, dry or scratchy nose, throat, puffy red or inflamed eyes, and many other symptoms. So if your client is having any of those symptoms, your best option is going to be to refer them to a physician, because you are a cosmetologist, you are not a doctor, and you cannot treat a client. So for your safety as well as your clients, it's best to refer them to a physician if they are experiencing any of those symptoms after receiving a service with you. We are now looking at safe handling techniques on page 236. And this is basically going to describe how you should not use a product and any tools that are required to use this product. We want to make sure we are always checking our MSDS sheet for any products to make sure we are using them safely, we're following the proper techniques, and any tools that are required are being used during the service. We're now looking at the safety equipment required for services. So again, we're referring back to our MSDS sheet for all services and products that are used during services. We want to make sure we're wearing our goggles when necessary, our gloves when necessary, and we're just being consistent with following that MSDS sheet. So I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but according to the media, everything causes cancer now. According to Hair Structure and Chemistry Simplified, that's not necessarily true. So we have our toxicity and our carcinogenicity. Toxicity is going to describe things that are usually thought to be dangerous or poisonous. And then we have our carcinogenicity, and we are aware that these cause cancer. If you look at your MSDS sheet, it's going to tell you if a product is toxic or if it causes cancer, just so you have the understanding of what that product could or could not do to you or your client. Today we have learned that every chemical can be safe, but also dangerous. Most chemicals are not harmful unless people overexpose themselves to the substance. When used according to manufacturer's instructions, chemicals used in the salon are safe. Safety requires learning the facts and obeying the rules. You must familiarize yourself with the literature from product manufacturers, with OSHA regulations, and with information provided by MSDS. So today we have completed chapter 15. I'm glad that we had the opportunity to move a little bit forward and take care of this lesson so you guys can use that in the salon. As always, your test will be available on Thursday and your coursework will be due Sunday at 11:59 p.m. If you guys have any questions, just let me know. I hope you have a great week, and I will see you next week. Bye.